Hello and welcome to the next of our series of fireside chats in the Getting to Know You series, and I'm joined today by our preacher at the pre-recorded service at St Paul's Cathedral Sale for the seventh Sunday after Pentecost, Kate Campbell. And Kate is a lay reader in the diocese based at the Cathedral Church of St Paul, and also an ordination candidate for the distinctive Deaconate, something we'll chat about in a minute. Kate, well, welcome.
Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you for your ministry today. It's a little bit weird to welcome Kate into this office and building, because Kate, of course, works in the office next door as part of the registry team, and we'll tease that out a little bit too, Kate. And it's great to have you back under the registry roof here in the chapter house. And we've got our greenery back today in the fireplace for the fireside chat, which is very appropriate given Kate's sermon today. And Kate, you spoke really helpfully about the kind of process, if I can put it that way, or even the outlook or the attitude of being a gardener and nurturing these broad beans to life and growth. And it was really, really helpful metaphor that you drew out of the gospel reading. And it struck me, you talked about, I think, the patience that a gardener needs, and how that kind of illuminates for us the divine patience, God's patience with us as we grow. God's waiting for us to thrive and to flourish. And God's patience, in fact, with the whole of creation. And in a time when, we wonder about, where did all this stuff, this COVID stuff and all the things that we've been dealing with, where does it all come from? In quite a challenging gospel reading, there's actually great comfort there too, isn't there? In the sense of the divine patience that God waits for and waits with creation in its groaning, for creation to be and become all that it might be in God's love. And that means taking the risk of letting the wheat and the weeds grow up together. Yeah. What do you think, is patience a helpful spiritual kind of theme for you in your journey?
Oh, it absolutely is for me. I think if I look back on my life, my younger years, I was busy running and training and running and hurtling and running and training and hurtling, and I was always on the go. Because
you represented the state of New South Wales, didn't you?
I represented New South Wales, yes. And but I recognise too that there's a depth of patience in me as well. And again, looking back to those running days, God must have been terribly patient with me, because I had made a commitment at about the age of 15 at the Jesus movement in Sydney. That was about 1969, I think, 1970. And but then running sort of became my God. I think Bishop Bruce Wilson named it that way one day. He said, became your God. I said, probably. I kept running, and then I had my children. My first child, Amy, was on the way and felt something was missing, and reconnected with the faith community, and have been that way ever since. Yes, and I've had people on the journey who have been extraordinarily patient with me. And I remember living in Moree, and by that time I had Matthew as well, so I had 2 little ones. And I was really restless this afternoon, and I rang a friend. We hadn't been living in Moree very long, but I rang a new friend, and she was looking after the playgroup in Moree. And I said, Leslie, I'm so restless, I don't know what's going on with me. And it was complete silence on the end of the phone for a couple of minutes. And she said, my goodness, she said, I've been praying that you wouldn't find rest until you had made a renewed commitment to Christ.
Wow.
I went, And
it's that lovely Augustinian thing, isn't it? About our hearts are restless until they find their rest.
Yes.
Yeah.
And while so I've been part of the faith community wherever I've lived since then. So that was 1983, that would have been. Yeah. It's been a steady journey since then in various places. Yeah. Mostly country, New South Wales. And it was in the late 90s where Bishop Bruce Wilson tapped me on the shoulder and I laughed. Yes, my reaction was laughter.
Presumably he said something when he tapped you on the,
yes,
on
he
the
did.
shoulder.
He tapped me. Now, what about deaconing, Kate? Oh, yes, Bishop. Don't think so. Life's a bit full right now. I don't think so. And just continued on doing, offering ministries as I could and how I could. And I'm someone who always likes, like most people I suppose, I like to do my very best at whatever I do, to my own torment sometimes, I admit. And but that didn't go away, and then just the last few years it's been a constant niggling from different people. And again, there was a restlessness with hindsight. And then a couple of years ago when I was sitting in the sanctuary serving, and I don't even remember what Susanna's sermon was that morning, but I had two words pop into my head, permanent diaconate. I went, oh, yes, all right, okay. And I went off to a discernment group, wanting to put all that to rest and get on with my life and retire and do some more embroidery and do all the things that I love to do. And
process of elimination.
yes.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd just eliminate that now, and it got turned on its head. So here we are now, but it still took me a little while to come to that point. But once I actually accepted it, the amazing peace I felt, I just can't explain. It's just a sense of peace.
Yeah.
And it was a knowing of, oh gosh, God, you're a bit patient here with me. But it's God's timing too, I think.
Absolutely. And patience is different from procrastination, isn't it? It's that sense of waiting on the right time, the appointed time, the kairos time, rather than the chronos time, and that sense of waiting on God's timing too, as well as our own. The Holy Spirit speaking with our spirit, as we have in this bit of St. Paul's letter to the Romans we're working through at the moment.
Yes.
You mentioned the distinctive diaconate there, Kate. Tell us a little bit about what that means, and particularly what it means for you.
Well, for me, I don't feel called to be a priest and have responsibility for a faith community in that sense. I've always described myself as a backup helper, a servant helper. And in a healthy sense, not a, I'm servanted crawling on the floor.
Not a doormat.
No, not doormat, no, as a servant helper, backing up and helping things happen and helping the person in charge. In charge perhaps isn't a good word.
With their particular...
With leadership, with whatever their role is. And I've been like that in whatever employment I've been in as well. So that sense that I'm not called to be a priest, but for the diaconate, and I'm someone who doesn't walk into a room and say, oh, look at all these dozens of new people, oh, let's meet them all. It's a case of I'm more likely to seek someone out on the edges and sit with them and talk to them and perhaps hear their story. So I feel, and I know distinctive deacons are often described as boundary riders, and I'm not sure that I would describe myself as that. We'd had some plans in place in December for this year, but of course things have changed with the COVID, and they sort of haven't happened, so things are just evolving a little differently. So but it's connecting with people on the edges is where my heart is.
Yes. That's so boundary in that sense of that being that helping to form that kind of porous membrane, if you like, at the edges of the church, where there's a soft point of entry for people, and you can help people connect with the centre.
Yes, and offering that soft point of entry. Very much so. Yes, we don't know what someone else is thinking or feeling, and it's like putting yourself in someone else's shoes, but you can't put their socks on. But just walk alongside them and just see how things really are for them. We don't know what people's stories are, and it's important to listen to them.
Absolutely.
See where they've come from.
And in that sense, I think the ministry of the deacon is really emblematic of all Christian ministry, in a sense. So you kind of embody something for us as a distinctive deacon that all the baptised are called to, that
Yes.
sense of standing at the church door looking outwards
Yes.
and connecting, you know, the worshipping fellowship life of the church with what's happening in the community, and being that person who can, have a foot kind of, you know, either side of that, you know, for want of a better word, boundary.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I've just been reading a book from the Anglican Diocese about, and it's a celebration of the deacon of household of deacons in Canberra, and there's some wonderful stories in there, and each deacon was different. Is different. They offer different things, and it's and someone who I spoke to recently said that, you know, it's important to be who you are. You'll be most content in your ministry with who you are and what you're doing, without overextending and trying to do too many new things at once.
Yeah, that's right. It's you know, God calls us as we are and as we're becoming into ministry, and uses our personality, our disposition, our temperament, all those things that make us who we are. That's part of what we minister, you know, with and from, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And that becoming, you say becoming, that's exactly right. It's every day it's a becoming, a renewal, and a becoming ongoing. Well, I know what it is for me anyway.
Yeah, and part of that journey for you is a return to kind of formal study. You've done loads of study, of course, over the stretch, including deep theological study through education for ministry, among other things. But you're back doing a kind of qualification at the University of Divinity through Trinity College. Tell us a bit about how that's been.
Wow. Well, I can say that when I had a conversation with someone on it was the second day, I think, of gathering of the discernment group. I was chatting with this one other person, and we both said, oh, look, if there's an expectation of more study, well, it's no deal. And I said, yeah, it's a no deal for me too, and here I am. But it's been a delight, really. It hasn't been easy. And even the lecturer even said with the first text, oh, I hope I haven't thrown you all in at the deep end. I'm thinking, and I actually said, well, I felt as though I was. But it's been a good process, and valued the reading, and the text has got lots of pencil marks and notes and things in it, which I hope that I'll return to one day. And that was looking at our disbeliefs, to engage in what our beliefs are as people of faith. And that was worthwhile. Yes, and I'd submit essays and think, oh, well, here we go. But the outcomes were good, yes. So, it's been a challenge. And it's all online now. And I had hopes of going down for lectures, but COVID interrupted, like most other things. Yes. And I look forward to the Old Testament next semester.
Fantastic. It's great to look at, you know, our disbeliefs as much as our beliefs, in a sense, and reminds me of that great question, you know, when someone says, oh, you know, I don't believe in God. It's like, tell me about the God you don't believe in.
Yes.
You know, it's a great starting point, isn't it?
Yes. And that they can be good encounters with people who claim to be atheists, actually. Yes.
Kate, your sense of vocation is not the only kind of sense in which, you know, you come full circle and the wheels sort of turn, you know, back to Bishop Wilson's tap on the shoulder all those years ago. You also find yourself back in the registry office as part of the wonderful team here. Your role formally is, you know, financial officer, but you do a whole bunch of different stuff here. Tell us a little bit about what it's like working in the diocesan offices.
Well, it was a big change for me, you know, receiving the email to consider it. I thought, oh, geez, I wanted to retire this year. What are you doing, God? And prayed about it and did the practical calculations as I wanted to do, and found myself back here. And after 16 years? 16 years. It's a delight working with Annette again, because we did some hard yards together back in 2003, 2004. It's a fairly dynamic place, really, to be, but as you say, it's a great team. There is a lovely sense of team, which I really value.
You come at a busy time, because of course we're trying to implement JobKeeper and work out how all that
yes, all those
applies
things.
in our context, so you've really hit the ground running.
Absolutely, yes, quite literally. And,
those running skills can come handy.
I don't know, I'm feeling like a duck paddling, madly paddling, but it's one of the things. There's a strong sense of being able to be myself. And I feel I can do that really well. And I actually one of these silly people that love bookkeeping and getting things right to the cent. And there have been quite a few transitions with things. And but I delight in the phone calls as well. It's great to be free to talk to people on the phone. And you can often sense if someone is just needing a pick-me-up chat and offer that as a ministry for them, just on an incidental basis as well.
Yeah,
yes.
It's a pastoral role, isn't it, as well as
very much,
kind of,
yes.
Administrative one, and it's great to have people, in the team who've got those pastoral skills, as you and others both, all do. But it's you probably also, sense the moment we're in too, and again I come back to that idea of patience, because we've got some challenges strategically and financially, administratively, and again that permission that your homily gave us today, and that the gospel reminds us of, to sometimes just hasten slowly and take a little step back, not rush in to solve the problem, to pull out the weeds prematurely and make kind of unintended kind of mistakes by doing that. But to make sure that we're taking that kind of longer term, considered, thought through approach to the challenges before us.
It's easy just to jump in and say, we can fix that by doing da-da-da. But sometimes, and sometimes that's the case, but often it's the case of just looking at things carefully, whether it's in administration or finance, looking at things carefully and going over them, and you can... and then sometimes just leaving them to sit, and then go back to them, and things will be highlighted for you. Yeah, I call it pastoral administration. Everything that we do here on finance and administration level, it needs to be pastoral. There's no point in being here if we don't have that mindset.
Because it's all in the service of the kingdom, isn't it?
Well, it is, yes, and we are here to serve the diocese and the people of the diocese, and God's kingdom, which is the whole world, not just these little brick buildings.
Too right.
Yes.
I think sometimes our kind of human nature in these situations of, when we're facing challenges or we're facing a kind of conundrum like the COVID-19 pandemic, we do feel like we want to fix things and make things right. And I think part of the spiritual challenge, this whole situation, is the challenge to our sense of control as human beings, and perhaps our hubris, that we are actually kind of, we have that sort of, dominion or mastery of our kind of environment, when actually, it's pretty fragile.
Yes, we don't have that.
No, we kind of bump into our limitations, and again, I think the wonderful thing that you tease out for us about the kind of risks that God takes with us in creation, allowing us the freedom to grow and become, and that includes the freedom for things to go wrong.
Yes,
things to
absolutely.
go amiss, even at the kind of tiniest level, like a virus, because the only way we can be who we are is in that freedom that is love, rather than the kind of control that sometimes we crave, as the words of the opening hymn that we sang today.
Yes, very much.
Remind us. So I think there's some profound spiritual kind of reflection for us in this moment of experience.
Well, I know for me personally, the last few weeks I've found it a bit tough with COVID. Not seeing grandchildren and some children, and I would normally retreat into my embroidery and sewing, but I've had to be careful with that too, because I've had a few blunders in that. So I just hang back, just sit with it and go quietly, and things will emerge as they should.
Again, that patience.
Speaking of resting time.
The fallow. Again, the gardening image. Speaking of your embroidery, I think there are dozens of stoles and chasubles and copes and things around the diocese that bear your, the mark of your artistry on them, and that's been a real ministry of yours. Are you going to make your own stoles and investments ahead of your ordination, or have you given that commission to someone else?
Oh no, I will do it, but don't ask me what's they're going to be like. It'll be, I have some thoughts, but haven't. A few people have asked me that, but I have nothing definite at the moment, except for a few symbols. But whatever I do, it'll probably be a trademark of who I am. My designs tend to be clean, simple lines, and the more simple something is, the more you have to get it right, because you can't cover up your mistakes. So, but I will, yes. Yeah,
fantastic.
Yes, they will have a waratah on them, but because I earned a waratah running for New South Wales, so that was quite a significant thing for me. Oh yes, I can do this.
Absolutely.
So, but that's only a couple more things. I haven't come to the rest. It'll all come.
It will.
I have a notepad. It'll evolve.
We look forward to seeing it on the 6th of February, folks. 11 a.m. St Paul's Cathedral.
Yes. It's my eldest son's birthday. So
there you go. That's lovely.
Yeah, it is.
And just as we kind of look forward to that, Kate, and you've reflected with us about your sense of your journey towards that moment and responding to that calling. Each year in the diocese we have a day that we mark as Vocations Sunday, coinciding with the feast of St Matthew, and it's a time when we really encourage all the baptised to think about what God might be calling each of us to do in the church and in the world, and just to do that deep intentional listening and to be open perhaps for the stirring of God's Spirit within us. We're a little ways off from that, but as we creep up on it, what would you say to anyone who might be watching who's wondering about their own sense of vocation and how to go about discerning that, how to engage in that kind of deep, prayerful listening and openness?
I think for me, it's very much a case of what's that word, patient again. Actually, I could say to you now, 23 years ago, and I missed my opportunity, but the timing wasn't right, and I still have the letter that was written to me. So obviously it was significant for me, and I just continued to honour my faith, I suppose, and offer whatever ministry I've been able to at the time, and things have emerged from there, and be open to surprises, and be yourself. Don't try to be anything other than yourself, because the wheels will fall off. And I know for me, ultimately, I knew when I knew. I can't explain it any other way.
It's a visceral kind of...
Absolutely, yes. And I think I mentioned that sense of peace. Once I said yes, the peace is there and was there, and it hasn't strayed. It just is just right. And people need to, and don't be afraid to say no. It isn't time for me to do this or that, but to really engage, and if a ministry isn't working for you, or you don't feel that's the place where you should be, look at what God might be calling you to in that circumstance, and be prepared to listen to others as well. Yes, I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Well, you've been a great listener, Kate, and you're a very calming and peaceful presence in the church, in the office, and wherever you are living around the diocese and the community. And so thank you for all that you do for us. We really look forward to celebrating your ordination in February. That's very exciting, and for all that means for us in terms of your embodiment of that foundational diaconal ministry. And thank you again for your ministry to us today in breaking open the Word and in sharing something of yourself in this conversation. It's been really lovely.
Oh, it's an absolute privilege, Bishop. Thank you for asking me.
Pleasure. Okay. See you next time. Thank you.